Robert and myself are going to present something like, a sample of our work that we have carried out over the last few years to really show the benefits in architectural practice. So what we do is, we're using BIM since 12 years minimum, so we have combined experience of almost 25 years. So it's a joy to use it, actually, and we happen to use ArchiCAD because, like, at the time it was the most performant package available. And we do kind of work in Ireland and abroad, as far as Indonesia, and over quite a few locations in Ireland as well. So we have residential architecture, we do commercial architecture as well, as you can see, and we do leisure projects, like sports centres, especially focused on tennis. Then we do work for the public sector as well, in terms of urban design schemes. And we are BIM consultants. We are consultants. We have been consultants for Stewart Contractors, BAM, for instance, John Paul Construction. But in the end, we also members of RIAI, the RIAI BIM subcommittee, and also CETA, the BIM committee, because we try to promote BIM in the architectural profession and see how it impacts profession and give advice. So even if you have questions at the end of the presentation, always, don't be afraid to come to us. You can always ask even beyond of today. So BIM, what is BIM? Everybody shouts BIM. You have to, implement BIM in your practice. But what is it? Is it fact or fiction, or is it pure hype or religion? It's a good question to ask. What is BIM? Is it, is it building information modeling, or is it management? Is it management? So we think BIM is a tool, first and foremost. It's like in the past, you had like your pencils, your sheets. There were tools as well, but now, of course, it's way more advanced. It's based on a virtual model. And we believe that BIM is all about harnessing the full potential of the virtual model, and that's within a collaborative environment. So talk to others, like Martin was saying. So the question you should ask for yourself is as well, like, how are you going to implement BIM in your practice to keep up with the trends of today, to be sure that you're not going to lose out on work in the future? And maybe, like, it's maybe not necessary to know exactly the real definition of BIM, it's just to know that there is a more efficient work practice available, the work process. So I was talking about harnessing the full potential of the virtual model. So what is that potential? So as Martin was saying earlier as well, it's a huge, tremendous advancement in terms of how you can design and develop ideas within the virtual design realm. So you can easily assign, ideas to objects, can change, have sections, and all this. This is actually a screenshot as when we work on our practice. So you can see it's quite realistic. And it's quite enjoyable to use, again, models and be completely immersed within the design. So we have accuracy of documentation. We do have significant productivity gains. You can see here, for instance, that's sections drawn simply, as Martin was saying, by a simple line. And we haven't drawn any line on this. This is automatically generated. So, it has obvious productivity gains. And of course, you have a wealth of presentation options. You can have sections anywhere you want. You have quantity takeoff as well, so you can inform your client how much the projects can cost in the future. You can share and integrate all different models from your engineer, from your M&E consultants, and interchange all the information through IFC or through ArchiCAD models. It's highly interactive. And one big aspect, of course, of the whole BIM process is the ability to carry out clash detection. So before going on site and before realizing that your stairs is going through your slab or your column is not on a beam, you can sort the problem out beforehand, which saves a lot of time on site and saves a lot of costs for the client, reducing claims and further expenses. So I'm going to give you a few examples. I'm going to go through a few projects that we have done as BIM consultants and urban design, and after which Robert will show a few projects in the architectural fields. So as BIM consultants, we've been giving advice to architects, to contractors, mostly with Matthew Edwards from PPM, and we give advice as well to engineers. This is our first project we did as a BIM consultant for contractors, and that was done last year. So we received a whole series of two-dimensional drawings packaged from the engineers and then from the architects. We overlaid all the information, and we saw there were a few discrepancies. So immediately we alerted the contractor that, look, you have to resolve these perhaps in time before you go on site, so that you know exactly what you're going to do. And in the end, we produced an IFC file for the contractor, and they use it then in Synchro to actually organize the whole sequence of building. This is just a few screenshots as well, just to show the sequence of how we build the 3D model. So you can see the foundation spat up to slab level, the structure, and that's typically how we start building. We start building component per component and level by level. And after then we can implement and put all the architectural elements to it, like the cladding, facade elements, and the site, car park areas. And that's how it looks in the end. I also wish to say that BIM packages always have a tendency to save time to architects, but sometimes it's good as well to go back and say that, look, maybe for this project for contractors, let's say, we build our walls like level to level, and we also build our walls like for the external facade system, internal facade system, so that it's a different way of building than you would for a typical architectural project. So use it for your own needs. It's flexible enough that way. This is just an example, on site. So they use it in this instance during the construction phase. They decided that, look, we do need a BIM model, we need to organize the site logistics, we need to know where to put cranes, how effective they're going to be to manage access of the trucks and all the rest. The next project, that's a project in Indonesia, and I'm just going to go through it as well quickly, because essentially it's the same thing. This was used actually in a tendering process for the contractor, and it was actually used to show the client that, look, this is the way we're going to manage all the site logistics, access, and all the rest. So it always helped them to get jobs out there, to visualize, to provide visualizations to clients, engineers, and all the rest. And in the end, you provide a pretty picture, but in the end, what is important is the available data beyond these fancy graphics. It's the ability to really take quantity tape off, of your typical concrete structure. Another project we did is, it was actually for a contractor through PPM as well, and we received a Tekla model from a concrete manufacturer, and they asked us that to double check this, to make it in presentable format so the contractor could analyze it, and check it with the architectural drawings. So that's what we did. We finished, put a second skin on it really, and put all the different elements. And within the process, we highlighted then to the contractor that, look, you have a few clashes here, you have a few windows missing. So the contractor could immediately then go to the precast manufacturer and say, look, you're missing certain things. And that's really all about efficiency, But of course, this is all about BIM consultancy. We shouldn't be offering this. The architects should be producing their model, that then they should share, with the concrete precast manufacturing plants. But it's a good job for us to do it in the meantime, of course. The next project is one we have done in the Middle East. Now, that's a slightly different scale altogether. We're talking about like 300,000 square meters. It's like 15 buildings, I believe, on 4 basement levels. And they came to us with, I think, 5 DVDs with 3,000 drawings. And they said, look, build a model. You have 2 weeks to do it. And so we had to assemble all the documentation, see that, look, how can we possibly do this, So in the end, we were successful. We did some kind of work, and we did all the concrete structure, from the bottom up. And this again, it's just a screenshot of a 3D view. So that's what you see when you actually analyze the models. And it's highly intuitive, as Martin was saying. It's highly usable, and you can cut sections through it, anywhere you want. But in this instance, they use it for, well, that's a render, so that's slightly different. But you know, if I go back, I almost prefer this view because you can clearly see the outlines of the objects and be very interactive for what you want to do and highlight issues and perhaps inaccuracies in the model early on. That's a render just showing doing the construction. So here, this is a video produced by Matthew Edwards, and that's an IFC model we gave them. They imported that model into Synchro, and they build up the whole kind of sequence of building it. So the client would clearly see what was going to happen in the end. And highlight as well, you know, certain issues and problems along when you do the, you know, the whole programming. We do also, of course, a lot of urban design. A lot of it we do with, in conjunction with Icon Architecture. I'm sure you know Philip Gagan and Delphine, who are based in Wicklow. So we've been working with them on quite a few projects. Here is a project in Fingal County Council, where we have done a typical project. It's called the Village Design Framework Plan, and we get the 2D information. We come up with some kind of strategy, come up with some kind of, you know, way how to develop urban morphologies within the development areas. Then we develop the, you know, urban forms. This is of course a 2D representation, but in the end we design always in 3D. This is like the end product where we do have the existing and we have the proposed superimposed, you know. Like I haven't shown you, like I'll show you later on how it's done, you know, like a little video. But it's always very good, especially to create, when you create like urban spaces, it's always good to go back in the space itself and see the buildings around you and say, like, look, proportions are right or wrong. I need more trees on this side or not. So it's all interactive. You walk and you design as you're in the space itself. And also it's a very good communication tool for the local authority and for the people that are living there. You see. The next project is a project that's we are still working on this, and this is really hot off the press. I was still working on this week, and it's a slightly different process we use, because like we started by creating a whole mesh of the whole village. You know, this is in Rosedown in Fingal County Council. So we came up with, of course, all urban morphologies as well. This is a 2D representation, but in a sense, as you can see this video, we created a whole mesh of the whole village, all the height line, and it was especially important because, like, you know, Rosedown, you can see you have a river running along. You have some sites with very difficult topographical restraints. So all the buildings and form, like urban morphology we designed for each site was adapted to each site. Here you can see the proposed development on it. And so this is only like a 3D, but it's actually the model we use. This is, for instance, shadow casting. It's highly usable as well because you can see, like, look, does all the gardens have adequate sunlight? Does all the open spaces have sunlight? And this is directly accessible through your interface, you know, your ArchiCAD interface. So in the end, you use a product that is a high kind of a added value, because you work within a package that gives you information when you need it. So I'm going to hand over to Robert, who is going to talk to you about a few of our architectural projects.